33 of Ron Hornaday, and now some more slower lap traffic will come into play.
What a corner by Hornaday. You saw it go high. Hornaday pulls right to the rear bumper, moves to the inside.
Here comes Hornaday trying to make the pass as they go into turn 3. He's going to have to slow down now. Both of them sideways. Sauter keeps it going straight. Hornaday's going to save it. They stay 1 and 2.
I can't believe NASCAR didn't throw the caution because I thought they'd wreck, but NASCAR was smart, kept the caution flag in the flag stand, and we're still racing green. Those guys are at it. Unbelievable.
Got to get back up to speed.
Oh, they're getting up to speed.
But they are nose to tail still, and now headed down the backstretch. 1 and 2. Sauter in front of Hornaday.
Now as the cars stack up at the entrance to the pit road, that's the hit Matt Kenseth was talking about. And while doing that, Keselowski runs into the back of Tony Stewart, so then this. From Tony Stewart's bumper camera. And on the cool down lap, there was that.
One of the most altercation nights in NASCAR history was between Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, and Tony Stewart. So many drivers were all mad at each other, but really they were all mad at just Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski had gotten into Matt Kenseth on the racetrack, then he had gotten into him after the race. He tried to wreck Denny Hamlin after the race, and it just created for an entire big brawl in the NASCAR garage area. Kenseth would go over there and try to fight Brad Keselowski after the race, and when they were pulling into pit road, Tony Stewart would back into Brad Keselowski. It was just a chaotic night.
Get you some, bud. Let's go get it now.
That was big right there. Jimmy Johnson took that away. Carl Edwards was going to get to the outside of him and have a chance to make the pass. Still might get him right here.
Here he comes, digging up off the corner, turn 2, half a lap away from the checkered flag.
And what's Jimmy Johnson do here? He goes to that high side. Carl Edwards is going to go to the bottom. There we go.
Oh,
Drove right by him. Hit it with a car stick. Here comes Jimmy Johnson back. He's in the wall.
Can he get it off the wall?
We're back inside now.
Oh, wow.
Carl Edwards trying to hang on. Here comes Jimmy Johnson down, and Johnson will take the win. Wow.
Woo! How good is that?
In 2017, during the Darlington Throwback race, they let none other than the king, Richard Petty, be the pace car driver. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But they let him drive his own race car that he drove back in the day. And Richard Petty actually got black flagged because he wouldn't come into the pit road when the race was supposed to start, and they had to do even more pace laps. It was just pretty funny that the king could still get black flagged and be penalized even when he's retired.
Really just kind of a stack-up effect. Like was one of them got on the brakes and it's kind of forced. Yeah, look at Tony Stewart just missing this crash. Man, here's where it really gets exciting. Man.
We talked about that there's nowhere to go as you come off of these corners, and when something like this happens, you make a commitment, and you've got one opportunity really to miss this wreck. Tony Stewart did a great job. Some others got.
Tony Stewart accidentally ran to the back of Joey Logano in the 2009 race at Dover. And Dover Speedway has had multiple accidents that were actually pretty bad. And this is one of them. Joey Logano in his rookie season not only crashes pretty violently, but he starts flipping in the middle of turns 3 and 4 at Dover. That is something you probably won't ever see again in the history of NASCAR because it's so wild and so bizarre that even happened. Logano was able to come to rest on his wheels, and thankfully he was okay after this accident.
Are you hearing that, KB? Yeah, 7-4. This is Channel 2 now. Just stay right there. I don't know where we're getting that from. Hey, Tom, how's the tires doing? Get off the damn radio, whoever you are. Tyler, is that your cousin? Hey, mine. Whatever that is, you need to get rid of it. Hey, Brian, shut the up. If you could go to 2, go to 2. That's obviously fan calling out your name.
That was like Nanu.
That was strange.
All right, now that we're back in business here, what I missed the last time.
On a tire, trouble, turn 1, hard, a car in the wall, and spinning down to the bottom. It's going to be 10 or more cars involved. Johnny Benson. Lap 4. Here they come to the flag, and everybody pretty much out of the throttle.
Man, that car was almost on its top right there. It hit that wall a ton.
Rusty Wallace, his teammate, the 2 cars involved.
As they come through, watch for the last 2 cars, which I believe
There's Earnhardt Jr. up high, getting through with Schrader and Tony Raines. Jr. and Raines.
Darrell, I believe the 12 car, Ryan Newman, looks like he was out of shape, maybe starting to get loose by himself.
And Newman almost flipped over.
Remember, he had that hard crash at Daytona where he got on his roof at back in February.
I can't imagine that there wasn't some sort of contact.
I'm starting to think if your name is Ryan, you're going to flip a lot at super speedways, because Ryan Newman has had some vicious crashes at any super speedway track that he's ever been to. And at Talladega, there is a forgotten crash where he went in the air and almost flipped. And it was in 2003 when he went head-on to the outside wall in the middle of the big one. Newman's car went on its side and in the air, but was able to come back down across the racetrack, but it was in front of the entire pack that he still got collected in and T-boned by the 4 car and the 02 car. This was by far one of the most vicious crashes that Ryan Newman ever had in his career.
Look at this 4 wide. Oh, this is going to be big.
Yeah, that was a
Stephen Wallace into the wall. The 1 car, Gilliland.
Yeah, that was
David Gilliland made a
man through here. You see, he gets a big run on these 3 cars.
And I think Stephen was doing a great job being a little patient there. He could have pushed the issue even before. But right here, the track narrows up. Gilliland goes through the grass, and that shoots him over into Stephen Wallace. Just a huge mistake right there.
Boy, John West Townley did a nice job of not making it a 4-car deal.
Michael Waltrip is definitely one of NASCAR's craziest characters that we've ever had. During the 2015 grid walk at Texas, he spilled a taco inside Denny Hamlin's track bar. He was very lucky that this actually didn't damage the inside of the race car, and he was still able to make adjustments during the race, because that would have been disastrous for the 11 team. And during the All-Star race in 2024, when waving the promoter's caution flag, the essential competition caution, Michael Waltrip would drop the yellow flag on the racetrack and have cars run over it. Now, that's just embarrassing that even happened.
Not a great restart here as Ryan C gets off to a good start, and now they're 4 wide going into 1.
That's it.
Oh, and around goes the 7, hard into the outside wall.
Buddy, hang on. Hang on.
On the apron, the 21 of Anthony Alfredo was into the wall hard. He's upside down, sliding through 1 and 2. Down when he did hit the wall. Take another look. Here's the 18 of Riley Herbst. He gets into him.
Both of those young drivers are having good nights tonight.
And when you see a car gets upside down, Jeff, it takes me back to the technology we don't talk about so much. From a 5-point to a 6-point to a 7-point seatbelt harness, all of those points that are added are down around your hips and legs for this reason, to keep a driver pulled straight down in the seat so they don't go up when a car gets upside down.
That's a big impact. I mean, obviously it's dramatic when he rolls over, but as you said, Steve, the impact is what rolled him over.
Biffle coming back on the track that made Newman try to avoid running into him.
Contact between Biffle and Newman.
Yes, Biffle came back on the track. Newman was right there. Got into him and hard into that guardrail, and the tires sends him back out in the middle of the track here into McDowell.
See the rear end housing loose from the car, and then it goes over the fence. Well, that last impact for McDowell was the one that probably knocked the wind out of him.
What a piece of driving by David Reagan, sliding through there between those crashed cars.
The 2014 race at Watkins Glen saw one of, if not the most destructive crash on the short chute we've ever seen at that facility. And it's when Ryan Newman and Michael McDowell caused a massive wreck that would ensue Michael McDowell's number 95 Caleb Ford to go flying into the guardrail, busting through the guardrail, and breaking the entire rear suspension of that race car. It is something so dangerous, and it still blows my mind today that we use guardrails as protection. Doesn't matter the track, there are still multiple tracks with dangerous areas, and Watkins Glen has definitely worked on this area, and we haven't seen a bad accident like this since, but this was by far one of the most horrific crashes we've ever seen at that part of the track. But in 2009, there was also another part, and we were in a commercial break when it happened, and when we came back, the chaos ensued during the replays.
Crash over in turn 2. Michael Waltrip has hit the wall hard. The car is upside down, and you can see the car is really torn up. Well, Jerry, I said it's sort of on its side, or, boy, yes, it is upside down.
They're fixing up that gate where Michael hit over there. Let's take a look one more time and give that Kool-Aid man on the hood of that Pontiac a wild ride. Now, just coming out of turn 2, that's the crossover gate, and Michael hits the juncture of the gate and the concrete wall that begins the back straightaway. The car is literally sawed open, and you see the steering wheel now sticking out to the left side of the car, and this is what's left of Michael Waltrip's Kool-Aid Country Time Pontiac.
By far, one of the most iconic crashes in Michael Waltrip's entire career is when he survived this after the car basically disintegrating after he would hit the exit wall at Bristol Motor Speedway. I have no idea how to even describe this crash. It was so scary, violent to watch. Michael Waltrip would get tight off one of the corners and would hit the guardrail entrance that they would use to get the haulers into the racetrack since Bristol didn't have a tunnel. When he hit that, the entire car basically shredded into a million pieces, and the only thing left was basically Waltrip's seat just laying there.
The question has, did he come too far to the right? I was under the impression you could make as big an arc as possible. The argument might be that he actually entered the racetrack itself once you get to that second white line. If we back that up one more time, between the two corners, there's two white lines on the racetrack. One is kind of the top of the access road. The other one is the apron of the racetrack. Marty.
Well, Steve, this team has been flawless on pit road for a long time. They got a speeding penalty for the first time in 90-plus races last week, and this is what Alan Gustafson wants clarification on, Steve. Right here, he wants to know, was it when we came up in the center of the corner? And right now, they're telling him it was in turn 2. That's where your blend line penalty came from, but Alan Gustafson still wants to talk to officials to understand why that happened.
Chase Elliott pulls right back up on the track when he was not allowed to. He crossed the white line illegally against the NASCAR rules. The NASCAR rules said you were not allowed to go up on the racing surface after you exit the pit road. Chase Elliott did that and was penalized immediately. I'm going to paint the picture for you on this one. Coming down to the final few laps of the race, Tony Stewart led rookie Regan Smith down the pack at Talladega. This would ultimately be one of the biggest controversial moments in NASCAR history. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but Tony Stewart would intentionally push Regan Smith down below the yellow line, and Regan Smith would pass Tony Stewart. In the NASCAR rulebook back then, if you were pushed underneath the yellow line, the person who pushed you wasn't even going to be penalized. It was you because you were below the yellow line. NASCAR has since changed that rule in the rulebook, but in 2008, it was different times, and Regan Smith got screwed out of a win at Talladega in 08. If this isn't the biggest fail and the biggest way to lose the Great American Race, I don't know what is. Sterling Marlin, with easily one of the fastest cars on that afternoon, was leading the race with only a couple laps to go. But he had a little bit of damage on his right front fender after the accident that involved him going to the red flag. So he decided to get out of his race car under the red flag, take his window net down, and walk around to the side of his race car to pull the fender out to make sure he was able to keep going to finish the race. That is something you cannot do in NASCAR, and it ended up costing him because he had to go to the back of the field and restart last on the last restart of the race and was not able to win the Daytona 500.
As the leader of the race, you see the white stripes on the track there. He's got a restart zone and just some big hits back here through the pack. And the number 7, as you guys have mentioned, Carson Hocevar making it through there. But going back to the restart zone, Gio is the leader of the race. He's got the option to choose where he wants to go right there. And he can wait all the way until that last white stripe before he goes if he wants to.
Yeah, that was just the second row, just where they know they had to be aggressive. We talked about how aggressive it was going to be. And they went to the back bumpers of the leaders on the front row, and it was just more than they could handle. When you hit that back end, it lifts those tires up a bit. As we watch the Morgan cam go through this mess, see how Frankie does. He sees the problems. Everything's going all right. And we're going to survive this one there, guys.
A big push by the 5, and up the racetrack, he catches the 1. Chastain into the wall. Big contact, caution comes out again. Gabe Hart said, I only have one chance at a green-white checkered, as we see Austin Dillon shoving the 43 of Eric Jones. Chastain, the window net down.
As well, Rick. We knew someone was going to make it 3 wide. But behind them was 3 wide. But that right there, just Larson gets up the racetrack. He was pushing, it looked like he was pushing Hamlin.
Something
and he just lost the front.
Something sparks, Jeff. Watch the front of the 5. I don't know if he hits the apron. Something seems to spark when it turns right. Hard to tell from that angle, but from behind, it looked like the left front might have caught the apron, really shot the 5 up the racetrack. Take a look.
He's in the back of the 11 right here. Gets on the apron. That's the splitter hitting the apron, and now it doesn't turn.
I feel like Kyle Larson here was trying to be a hero. He was trying to show everybody that he was not going to take any crap from Denny Hamlin. Just a few weeks prior, Hamlin put him in the wall, so he was extremely upset, and he was ready to get redemption and wreck Hamlin. But this ultimately didn't work out for Chastain, as he would totally miss wrecking Denny Hamlin. In the process, he would collect Ross Chastain, who he's had run-ins with in the past before. So honestly, maybe it wasn't that bad for Kyle Larson. But what would ensue after this was even more cautions and more accidents. So this wasn't the first stupid thing that happened at Nashville in 2024.